Thank you, Cian Corla. Minister, the Community Employment or CE programme is invaluable. Workers gain experience and develop skills, communities gain from the work, and society gains from the programme. In West Cork, CE workers are vital workers. Without them, so many rural services and organisations would close. Skibbereen Education and Environment Project recently shared with me a selection of roles CE workers fill. The Care and Repair Service, set up with support from one of my predecessors, former TD Jim Daly, which carries out small repairs to keep elderly and vulnerable people in their own homes, and it's staffed entirely by CE workers. Support staff in Lisheen House, a suicide awareness and counselling charity, are CE workers. Community halls, tidy towns, sports clubs and charity shops have all gained massively from this programme. It's the type of government policy we need. It's targeted at the needs of people and communities and meets our shortfalls in local services. I think every deputy in this House knows its value and supports it. Minister, there are three items that projects and sponsors have highlighted to me that I want to raise with you today. Firstly, the situation regarding workers over 55. In rural areas, we have proportionally more older, unemployed people. Rural and coastal communities need the CE scheme to recognise this reality. Prior to 2017, workers could remain on the scheme for up to 5 or 6 years, depending on their circumstances. However, the last government greatly reduced this, with scheme schemes generally lasting 1 year, with the possibility of an extension if the participant is working towards an award. This situation is beyond frustrating for workers and sponsoring services. There's a person doing good work, helping their community, but the department changed the conditions, so they have to leave their role. The person's forced to leave and is made unemployed, and the role's not filled. I just don't know where the joined up thinking is on it. Secondly, projects and sponsors are calling out for qualifying period to be reduced from 12 months unemployed to 6 months. This would enable a whole cohort of people to participate in the programme, upskill and actively contribute to their community. I don't know what sense there is in making people wait an additional 6 months unemployed rather than allowing them the opportunity and the dignity to take up meaningful work. This situation is even more relevant during the pandemic when unemployment prospects are so bleak. The people affected and all communities need government to respond pragmatically to allow people to access this excellent programme earlier. Thirdly, Minister, and most urgently, if you give priority to this one, there's a clear need for a further extension of contracts for CE workers, and I welcome the extension the Minister made during the week, but it's only until the 2nd of July. Over the past years, sponsors and projects have not been able to recruit and retain effectively, and training, a requirement of the programme, has not been adequately delivered, particularly during the pandemic, and that is actually part of people's contract. So it's only fair that all existing contracts are extended and far past July. The Minister and the Department have acknowledged that there's an extension needed. We just need to follow through with the logic. And Minister, there's precedent for this. So for example, on the islands, there's an exception for lifelong learnings due to the kind of restrictions based on being in an island, and those same restrictions are so apparent in so many parts of rural areas as well. So there's a precedent there for it, and I think particularly during the pandemic, because these roles can't be filled. For example, the social welfare officers normally after 12 months would be looking for new people to fill the roles, but they're in desk work now, so they're not being refilled. And when you think of all those initiatives I outlined in the beginning, for there to be nobody in those roles would have a detrimental effect on communities, and even more so in a pandemic. In West Cork, if the roles are not extended, very soon we're looking at going from 30 CE workers to 11, which may discontinue the programme, and like I said, would take away from those vital services that I think we know we all desperately need, especially at the moment. Skibbereen Education Environment Project and others have asked me to bring these matters to the Minister's attention to help preserve their schemes and the service they provide. So I'm wondering what answers I can give
Thank
them.
you very much, Deputy. We'll be coming back to you. Minister O'Brien, please.
Thank you, Deputy, for raising this matter. Community employment is an active labour market programme designed to provide eligible long-term unemployed people and other disadvantaged persons with an opportunity to engage in useful work within their communities on a temporary fixed-term basis. The Deputy may be aware that I held a very productive online meeting on Wednesday the 27th of January with Minister Humphreys and representatives of the CE sponsoring authorities. The representatives outlined a range of issues that are causing concern within their schemes, and one of the CE schemes in Skibbereen has raised similar issues directly with my department officials locally also. Following this, Minister Humphreys and I announced a number of changes to C earlier this week on Tuesday, March 2nd, which will substantially address the concerns that have been raised. One of the issues raised was the implication of a 2017 rule change that affected C participants aged 55 and older who were on C in July 2017. Following an examination by department officials, we announced that those C participants who were affected by the rule change in July 2017, who were on C at that time, now have the option of remaining on C for a maximum of 6 consecutive years in accordance with the terms of the Saver Clause introduced in the 2017 rule changes. Department staff will shortly begin work with C sponsoring authorities to identify those eligible C participants. Since the start of the pandemic, we have approved the extension of C participant contracts that would have come to an end during Level 5 restrictions on a number of occasions. To date, over 5,000 C and TUS participants have benefited from these arrangements. These participants will now benefit from a further extension up to the 2nd of July. This will benefit an additional 2,000 C and TUS participants whose contract would ordinarily end between now and the start of July. I would like to reassure the Deputy and the C scheme in Skibbereen that there will be no sudden ending for this number of contracts on whatever the final date of extensions will be. Subsequent to the final extension date, there will be a planned ending of contracts on a phased basis over a period of time in order to ensure continuity of local services. Department officials will be working on the ground with CE schemes to support them in managing this process. Now, I am aware that the CE recruitment challenges arising from the current restrictions, which has an impact on the ability of some CE schemes to recruit new CE participants. Department officials continue to work with CE sponsoring authorities to identify and refer potential CE participants to schemes where it is safe to do so in compliance with public health restrictions. I have also reiterated on a number of occasions, most recently on Tuesday, that filling CE vacancies will be an absolute priority for the Department once the economy and society begins to move beyond COVID and public health restrictions ease. It is our intention, therefore, to significantly scale up the numbers of referrals from local and TRIO offices to CE once the country begins to reopen. We also announced on Tuesday that a new forum comprising representatives of CE and TUS schemes and officials from the Department of Social Protection will be established shortly. The purpose of the forum is to discuss and exchange views on operational issues impacting on both schemes. These recent changes that have been announced will mean that the schemes in Skibbereen will not have any participants exiting until the 2nd of July at the very earliest. One participant employed in one of the 2 CE schemes in Skibbereen will also benefit from the changes announced for those affected by the 2017 rule change. Minister Humphreys and I are fully committed to the future of this programme, as is evidenced by the announcement of 3,000 additional CE places we also secured approval for to support community employment in 2 schemes as part of the July stimulus package. We will continue to support and improve the programme for the benefit of the CE participants and the valuable contribution being made to local communities through the provision of services.
Many thanks, Minister O'Brien. Deputy Kearns.
Thanks, Minister. I welcome your interest in the scheme. I suppose communities now need the interest just to be lived up to with commitments.
Deputy Kearns, I think we mightn't be picking you up there. You're not.
Oh, sorry.
Maybe if you could make sure you're getting your mic.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me.
There, please.
The programme's incredible value for money. I suppose almost 20 hours of work a week, participants only get an extra €22.50 more than their social welfare payment. And so I suppose while my critique of this small amount is a discussion for another day, the government and department have to recognise that the cost of the programme is vastly outweighed by its impact on the ground, and it needs greater flexibility to meet the needs of workers. So you said you're aware of the recruitment issues, that it's really, really hard to recruit new CE workers during this time who've been unemployed for longer than 12 months, and that there's an extension until the 2nd of July. But I suppose what I'm asking for, and I'll leave you some of my time as well just to answer it, is that there is precedent there for allowing lifelong learning for island communities. So, we know that it's possible to do that, and during the pandemic, I suppose it's so necessary, not to mention the fact that a lot of rural communities have the same restrictions and barriers as island communities. So, Minister, what I'm really asking you to look into, and please, if you can do, is to extend that special measure for islands into other areas during the pandemic, because the 2nd of July, I think we all know it simply isn't long enough. So I'm going to leave the rest of my time for you to just respond to that specifically. Just would give people a lot of ease. Like I said, programmes like the one that former TD Jim Daly set up, the Care and Repair Service, allowing people to stay in their homes, vulnerable people, and being looked after, is entirely staffed by CE workers. And like I said, in West Cork, we're looking at a situation where we could go from 30 to 11. And I know you said the 2nd of July, but people just need more reassurance and longer term assurance that they'll be able to stay in their positions, not just for them, but for the people who rely on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Kearns. Minister, to conclude.
I want to thank Deputy Kearns for raising this matter, and I place a huge emphasis on the importance of CE schemes as well. I am aware of the CE recruitment challenges arising from the current restrictions, which has had an impact on the ability of some CE schemes to recruit new CE participants. Community employment is an active labour market programme designed to provide eligible long-term unemployed people and other disadvantaged persons with an opportunity to engage in useful work within their communities on a temporary fixed-term basis. CE schemes make a very valuable contribution to local communities through the provision of services, and my department will continue to support them with this. I would like to reassure the Deputy and the CE scheme in Skibbereen that there will be no sudden ending for this number of contracts on whatever the final date of extensions will be. Subsequent to the final extension date, there will be a planned ending of contracts on a phased basis over a period in order to ensure continuity of local services. My department officials will be working on the ground with CE schemes to support them in managing this process, and they will be in touch with the Skibbereen scheme over the coming weeks. I will take away your suggestion on lifelong learning exemption for the islands. I wasn't aware of it, but I'll take that back to the officials and see what they say. Yes, you could say that we might need something beyond July 2nd. I suppose we're moving in sync with the new plan, and so we review on an ongoing basis. There is a chance there may be a need for another extension. I suppose the other thing to keep in mind is that there will also be a larger cohort of long-term unemployed people as well who could very well benefit from CE schemes as well. So while I understand that a lot of sponsors have a lot of good people and they're doing good jobs and the people want to stay, there is a pressure in the other direction as well for a lot of people who are very distant from the labour market and will be distant from the labour market, and we need to be conscious that they need to be given a fair shot and a fair opportunity as well over time. Yeah. Thank you.
Many thanks.